Yo, everybody, it is Wednesday, April 2nd. This is Liberation Day. Trump announced the tariffs, and the market is down sharply right now in futures. Dow is down 2.5%, S&P down, NASDAQ down 4% so big decline. But it's stabilizing at lower levels. So the tariffs are a 10% across the board tariff for every imported good, 34% tariff on China imports, 24% tariff on Japanese imports, 20% tariff on imports from Europe. I don't get excited about this stuff. I mean, it's not the thing that is critical in my analytical framework. I stick with the fiscal flows, which are extremely strong. I mean, I sent out a graph to my subscribers today, just showing how strong these fiscal flows are. And if you'd like to get a copy of that graph, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com, sign up for a 30-day free trial to my report, MMT Trader. In fact, the flows are so strong, it's just hard for me to even stay like cautious on stocks. And it also explains why gold has been going up. I mean, these flows are incredibly strong. Still waiting on the budget. Congress is working on raising the debt ceiling. Right now, the discussion in the Senate is whether or not there's going to be a $5 trillion increase or a $4 trillion increase. So it looks like that's going to happen. And I've been saying to you guys, once that happens, I think the monetary environment right now, and when I talk about monetary environment, I'm not talking about Fed or monetarist or monetary policy. I'm talking about fiscal environment. Very strong. Very strong. 10-year Treasury yield now at 4.04%. This is a trade I've been promoting now since last year. I said that rates were going to come down, and that's exactly what has been happening. And we're going to see a rate cut in June and most likely another rate cut later on this year. Let me talk a little bit about the tariffs. Mainly from an inflation perspective, because that's been the conversation around these tariffs now for a while, that they're going to lead to inflation. A tariff is a tax paid at the border. Okay, it's usually paid by the importer, but that cost, and it's kind of fuzzy. I have to be honest. I've never really delved into tariffs and their impact very much. I mean, I had to go look it up. At first, I thought it was a tax paid by the foreign sector, but apparently it's a tax paid at the border by domestic importers. And even that is kind of, in the end, it's kind of fuzzy as to who actually pays it. It usually is split between the importer and the consumer. But what I want to say is that first and foremost, it's a tax that somebody pays. There's no price in the accounting of that transaction. Price does not enter into it. Okay? It's simply a tax that somebody pays. At first I said I thought it was paid by the foreign sector, but that's not the case. It's paid by the domestic sector. It could be the domestic business sector or the domestic household sector if it's passed along, if that tax is passed along. So there's no price that enters into the equation. It's a tax that somebody pays. So it's a reduction in net transfers to somebody. It could be a reduction in net transfers to the domestic business sector. It could be a reduction in net transfers to the household sector, or a combination of both. If the business sector, if the importer decides to raise prices to offset that, that's up to them. That's secondary, okay? that comes after the fact, basically. The first step is a tax is imposed. The second step is that the business has to decide how it's going to deal with that tax. Is it going to try to pass it along in the form of a higher price? It doesn't have to. You know, profits, the equation for profits, the profit equation is revenues minus cost. Revenues, that means sales. So like, if your sales are 10 and your cost is 3, your profit is 7. Now, if your cost goes up to 4, your profit is 6. All right? But if you increase sales to 11, your profit is the same. It's 7. So there are two variables, which is why you cannot automatically say that the tax will result in a higher price. That's secondary. I'm not saying it won't, but at the same time, I'm not saying it will. Price is not in the accounting of that transaction. That comes later. Okay, that's a separate decision by whoever is paying that tax. Do I want to raise the price to pass it along? So I think this whole thing, this assuming that it is inflationary, I think that's jumping the gun. I think that's unnecessarily making an assumption, which we don't know. We don't know. We'll find out. But right now, we don't know, all right? If it is a reduction to the net transfers to the domestic economy, which that's what a tax will do, all else being equal, then that's no good. That's bad. You don't want to see a reduction in net transfers, okay? That would be no good. If the tariffs lead to the foreign sector investing and spending more here domestically to try to, avoid that tariff, then in effect what happens is the foreign sector becomes the net payer, becomes, the burden, quote unquote, of that tax falls on the foreign sector. And actually, that is the goal of this. That's what Trump's trying to do. That's the goal of tariffs, to concentrate production domestically. Okay, that's the goal of it. He wants to have the stuff made here. I mean, I don't know if for me, and I've said this so many times in the past, I don't really see the reason for this. I mean, if you got foreigners who are perfectly willing to work for like slave wages, toiling away and laboring away and ruining their environment and using up their resources to create high quality finished goods that we get to consume for our, paper dollars or our electronic dollars, which we can create without limit, then I think we're getting the better end of the deal. That's all I think. I mean, let them labor and toil and wreck their environment and use up their resources. And we get the finished goods, because that is the definition of our standard of living. It's not the money. It's the stuff we have. I mean, your eyeballs are not going to deceive you. It'll tell you what country is rich and what country is poor. Go to a poor country. Your eyeballs are not going to fool you. There's going to be dirt roads. There's going to be very little food. There's going to be no medical care. Maybe no education, maybe no running water, maybe no sanitary systems. I mean, your eyes are not going to deceive you. You don't have to go to a bank and say, can I take a look at the deposits you got here on behalf of your customers? You can see that with your own eyes. And vice versa. If you go to a rich country, you're going to have like amazing infrastructure and healthcare and education and incredible, selection of consumer goods and food and fresh water and sanitary systems and all that stuff. I mean, your eyes are not going to fool you. So like this idea that, some things I get it. Maybe some things it's good, from a national security standpoint, we got to make it here. Like, you need maybe to have steel manufactured here because that goes to the military and armaments and stuff like that. Certain things, I get it. Food, we export a lot of our food, but we make, we produce enormous amounts of food this country. So certain things I get it, but this idea that we gotta, the government's gotta make money. We've been ripped off. Like, ripped off how? We're getting the goods. We're getting the stuff. They're getting our paper dollars, or we push a button and they get credited. That's not being ripped off. I'm sorry, but anyway, I'm not the guy in control. I'm not the guy making policy. I'm not the president or anything like that. So I don't get to decide. All I do is get to, do what I do, which is make investments and try to improve my situation through the financial markets and hopefully try to help you guys, educate you guys. So that's what the tariffs are. First of all, I don't get all emotional and crazy. If I get all emotional and crazy, it's about people in high positions who are spreading their ignorance around and forcing that ignorance into policy that is detrimental, unnecessary, prone to increase needless volatility and uncertainty, this kind of stuff. We had another one today with Mike Bloomberg coming out that the United States is facing a terrible fiscal day of reckoning. Well, Jesus Christ, I've been hearing this for fucking 40 years already now, man. The thing about these people, and they're all very, very, rich and wealthy, and it's kind of like they know that the impacts of what they're talking about is going to be very, very negative. And they feel, quote unquote, bad for us. But at the same time, they feel like they have to do this because they're the reasonable, rational people. When in fact, all they are a bunch of rich people who are fucking stupid, who are caught up in a mythology and a belief system that is completely wrong, and they're too stubborn and arrogant to go figure it out or to look at the reality of how things work and the fact that it didn't blow up after 40 freaking years when the thing went, parabolic. Stuff like that gets me, that riles me up. But like the market going down, no. And especially with these fiscal flows the way they are. So anyway, we'll see what happens. They're going to raise the debt ceiling. And things are going to be okay. Now, I will say, as I always do, I'm going to be following the flows, which means net transfers. If I start to see them really crater, I'll definitely bring that to your attention, but that's going to be something which might require a change in strategy. By the way, again, I want to mention, if I didn't already, I forgot, the 10-year Treasury is at 4.04. Yeah, I think I said. And I said that was going to happen all the way going back to last year. I've been saying it daily on these videos, okay? Has nothing to do with inflation right now. There is a massive amount of reserves in the system. And the more the system accumulates these reserves, That's like pressure, downward pressure on interest rates, okay? That's just supply and demand. Big supply of reserves, you got rates coming down. And it's reflected already in, like Fed fund futures, what the probabilities are for rate cuts. You're seeing it, man. You're seeing it. Anyway, that's it for tonight. If you want a copy of that graph, please go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. You can cancel at any time. It's free for 30 days. And if you decide to stay on, you can stay on. And please like and subscribe. And if you've done that already, thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Bye.